Hi again, everyone. Gary Digit Williams here on Beltway Boxing News and Notes on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. This is an extra podcast we're giving you this week, and I'll tell you why that's an extra podcast we're giving you this week in just a moment. But we do have some information that I didn't want to wait on too much, so I wanted to give it to you right away this week. And so we're going to do that, and also we have some update. We have a preview that we're going to give you about next week's Saturday, September 14th card at the Michael & Son Sportsplex in Sterling, Virginia. We were going to hold it to last week, but because of situations this week, we decided to move it up a week, and I'll tell you all about that. And I went to a very interesting media day today, which is part of the reason why we're having this podcast, and I'll explain that going forward. Beltway Boxing News and Notes in this special extra Beltway Boxing News and Notes on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network will be brought to you, as always, by Real-Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, for shoulder pain and muscle strain, everything between, Boxing Law and the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief, the natural, plant-based, safe, fast, and effective ointment. You go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. She has great weight loss tips as always, great jewelry, and great training methods. If you go to Deborah, that's DEBRA Spears.com. Now, the reason why we're doing this podcast today is because, and partly because of Media Day. And I'll talk more about the Media Day itself in a little bit, but I tried to do an interview with the subject of the Media Day, and that was WBC female super middleweight champion, the heavy-hitting diva, Franchon Cruz-Dezern. I was trying to do an interview, but we were at the Bald Eagle Recreation Center in D.C., Southwest D.C., where the Headbangers train, and unfortunately, the podcast just didn't go through. It was terrible. We lost the signal early, so we could not get it through. So I didn't want to leave folks who listen to the podcast on Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio.com, TuneIn, and on Stitcher to have a 13-second podcast. So I'm doing this podcast to replace that a little bit. But the Media Day itself was really one of the more interesting Media Days I've ever been to. And I'll tell you that in a little bit later on at the end of this podcast. Before we get to that, we have a couple breaking news stories, and we have the preview that we're going to hold till next week for the Cynation Sports card on Saturday, September 14th at the Michael & Son Sportsplex in Sterling, Virginia. We're going ahead and do that this week because we have a lot of bouts have already been signed for that card, and there are a couple more that may be on the way. So we're going to talk about that. But before we get to that, let's get to some of the other news we have here. And we have interesting news concerning two title bouts. One that now will not take place, and the other has a location to where it will take place. First, let's talk about the one that's not going to take place. This is where we talk about former unified super welterweight champion Swift Jared Hurd, and he has decided not to take his contracted rematch we told you about a month ago against new champion Julian J-Rock Williams of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in December. Now, the bout was scheduled for December 14th at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, and Hurd enacted his rematch clause and everything was cool, but now he's decided not to do it. So it'll be interesting to see. The Acque, Maryland native Jared Hurd, who's 23-1, 16 KOs, he lost his titles to Williams by unanimous decision, one of the best bouts of 2019. That was on May 11th at the Eagle Bank Arena in Fairfax, Virginia, George Mason University. Now, I could conceivably call that the bout of the year. But one of the Beltway bouts and boxing bouts of the year, and I probably will put that in the list. Even though Hurd lost the bout, Williams needs to be credited because it was a great bout, no question about that. Now, after the win, though, Williams said Hurd and any other opponent in his future bouts would have to agree to performance-enhancing drug testing by the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association, or VADA. Then it has to happen at least 90 days prior to the competition. Now, there's no official word on whether or not Hurd decided to agree with that. So we don't really know about that. So that may be one reason. Williams thinks that is one reason that Hurd decided to skip the rematch. Now, there's also speculation that Hurd, who is one of the bigger boxers in the 154-pound class, he may move up to 160 competing as a middleweight. So that may happen also. There's also speculation on who his trainer will be. Now, I do have I'm going to call it an educated guess on who his trainer might be. And I'll tell you that in a second. But getting back to the 160-pound mark, there's a good move. Even though Hurd somehow gets to that 154-pound weight, I really haven't figured out how that happens. But he does do it. And he's been okay as far as I'm concerned. I don't think he can't make the weight, but I think middleweight will be a lot easier for him. I do believe that. I really do. So we'll see what happens. Now, as far as speculation on the coach, they don't. I talked to his publicist, Tatiana Moulton, today, and she doesn't want to literally give out who the coach might be. But my educated guess, and this is just a guess, take it for what it's worth. I don't have any kind of way to back this up so much, but I really think his coach now will be Kay Karoma. Now, for those again who don't know who Kay Karoma is, we talked about it many times on the podcast. Kay Karoma is the assistant coach for the United States national boxing team, USA boxing team. And Jared Hurd was in Colorado training with the elite boxing team, which includes our very own Keyshawn Davis. In this particular case, Troy Eyes is on the team too, but Keyshawn Davis he was training with Keyshawn Davis this past month. So my guess, and again, it's an educated guess, that his next trainer will be Kay Karoma whenever this bout. There's no guarantee that Hurd won't fight on December 14th. We don't really know about that, but right now it looks like, anyway, it won't be for Williams' title. We do know that, but he may still compete in December, so we'll have to wait and see. But right now, Hurd will not take the rematch against Julian Williams, so the bout that was scheduled for December 14th at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, is off. Now, one title shot that is on right now is the title shot that will take place on Saturday, November 9th, and that's the matchup that features undefeated Upper Marlboro, Maryland super featherweight Lamont Roach Jr., and he is scheduled to go after the WBO super featherweight championship held by Jamel Simplify Herring. And that bout will now take place, according to ESPN.com's Dan Raphael. It will take place in Fresno, California. Now, I think the big arena they have there is a Save Mart Arena. That was I only say that because Mike S&D Reed fought there a couple months ago. But we'll be in Fresno, California on Saturday, November 9th. Roach Jr. is 19-0-1, 7 KOs. He's currently ranked number 2 by the WBO. We talked about that last podcast. I didn't understand why he's ranked number 2. He was ranked number 1 when he won his one of his 3 regional title belts. Actually defended his one of his 3 regional title belts and won another one on his last bout. But now he's ranked 2, but he is the mandatory challenger for Herring. Herring is 20-2, 10 KOs. He won his title on May 25th. He defeated Masayuki Ito by unanimous decision in Kissimmee, Florida. He looked very good in that bout. That was a great bout. And I tell you, this is going to be a tough one for Roach. I really do. I mean, Herring's a very good fighter. I don't know. I don't know if the power is there for Roach to keep Herring off of him. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, definitely. And I hope Roach wins it out. But right now, I would definitely make Herring a pretty heavy favorite on this contest against Lamont Roach Jr. That'll be on Saturday, November 9th. Right now, it looks like it takes place in Fresno, California, and it'll be a headlining bout on a card that will be shown on ESPN Plus. So ESPN Plus will have that coming up on Saturday, November 9th. We move now to our next Beltway boxing card, live pro card in the area, and that'll take place on Saturday, September 14th at the Michael & Son Sportsplex in Sterling, Virginia. Now, this is a Cynation Sports promotion card, and this is going to be a very special one, and I'm very upset that I will not be able to make this card. This would probably be when I would probably be announcing. I would be the ring announcer for, but I have another engagement. As I've said before, I have another engagement that day. I have to do a football game, the DC Kickoff Classic over at RFK Stadium, which features Friendship Collegiate, H.D. Woodson, and Archbishop Carroll High School and Wilson High School. All teams from the district, and I have to be there for that. But this is going to be interesting because it'll be the bout that'll be the final one for a lady I consider a Beltway boxing legend. She has done so much and in a relatively short period of time, but she's accomplished so much, and she's done it with such dignity and such class and such grace. And she really has been one of the more exciting and really one of the more popular boxers in Beltway boxing in I'd say in the last 20 years, to be perfectly honest with you. And we're talking about Ashburn, Virginia's Tori Shonuff Nelson. She has said this bout will be her swan song, the close of a 9-year career. 9 years, that's all. That has been one of the most decorated careers in Beltway boxing history. Now, you talk about, of course, Sharia Leonard had 6 world titles. You talk about the boxers like Mark Two Shot Johnson, who was a Hall of Famer. You talk about Joppy and William Joppy and Keith Holmes and Sean Bay Mitchell, all great champions. And I don't want to put Nelson in that class in this situation, but you look at some of the females we've had, and I first come to mind is Israel Gerger-Wynn, who I think is still the best female boxer to ever come out of this area. That's my personal opinion. Lisa Foster, not too far behind, but Israel did so much and really tried to elevate boxing on a female level. Well, I tell you, Tori Shonuff Nelson has done that and then some. I mean, she's right up there with Israel as far as I'm concerned. Nelson is 19-2-3, with 3 KOs. And she's an 11-time world champion. Now, you got to stop there a little bit because a lot of her championships have been championships in what would be lesser known federations on the men's standpoint, but on the women's side, they're pretty legit when it comes to women. So we're talking about things like the WBF, WIBF, WIBA, the UBF, the WBO. She did win the WBC World Championship. I think that's her first one, was the WBC Middleweight World Championship. So, but all those other ones are legitimately considered world championships on the female level. So she's won 11 world championships in 4 weight divisions. She's one of only 3 boxers to be named Beltway Boxer of the Year twice. Okay. The other ones are Lamont Peterson and Jared Hurd, who's actually won it 3 times, 3 straight years, as a matter of fact. Nelson was Beltway Boxer of the Year. In 2013, she shared the honor with Phil Jackson Benson, and in 2014, she won it outright. Now, of course, in 2014, May of that year, she made headlines around the country in the women's boxing game when she knocked out the legendary Mia St. John in second round in Annandale, Virginia, Annandale Community College. I happened to be the ring announcer for that particular card, and one of the highlights of my career. Man, that was interesting because we had a chance to not only did I have a chance to be the ring announcer for the card, I was also the master of ceremonies for their media day. Between Mia St. John and Tori Nelson, had a chance to be there for them. And it was, good house on hand to follow that. It was a great, great event. No question about that. And, getting a chance to meet Mia St. John, who's a lovely lady. She's a wonderful person. But it was great to see. And Tori just had it all over Mia St. John when it came to the bout. Now, her only losses were the 2, I think, future Hall of Fame boxers, Clarissa T-Rex Shields and Christina Hammer, 2 of the best in the world. Nelson's coming off a 10-round unanimous decision win over Sana Turunen on December 1st in Washington, D.C. We had that card right here on the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. And on September 14th, Nelson will face Latasha Burton of Houma, Louisiana in an 8-round rematch bout. Now, the first time they fought was back in November of 2017. That was at the Silver Gun Arena in Ashburn, Virginia. And Nelson won by second round stoppage. Burton fell ill at the end of the round. She really her stomach acted up. She was vomiting, and she really didn't look. She didn't really feel well, and the bout had to be stopped. So maybe Burton will give a better performance coming up on September 14th. Burton is 4-12, by the way. She's lost 2 more times since that bout, all by knockout, and she's been knocked out or stopped in her last 6 bouts, including a first-round TKO loss to future world champion Franchon Cruz Dezern. That was about that Cruz Dezern had right before her world title. So that's an interesting bout. Now it'll be her swan song. Tori Nelson going against Latasha Burton. Bout scheduled for 8 rounds, and that's the main event. I believe it's in the middleweight division. And a key all Beltway super middleweight 8-round bout Phillips of Arlington, Virginia. He'll face off with the veteran Linwood Mr. Composure Dozier of Suitland, Maryland. Stankovic is a native of Niš, Serbia, and I tell you, his crowd comes every time he fights. He draws a really nice crowd. He's 5-1, 2 KOs, coming off his third round TKO win over Patrick Pierre. That was on June 1st at the Waldorf Cultural Center. Dozier is 10, 24, and 3, 5 KOs. He's looking for his first win since September of 2016. So he's had it tough. He's fought, pretty regularly, but he's had it tough. His last outing, Dozier lost by 4th round TKO to Ismael Villarreal. That was on August 16th in Nashua, New Hampshire. So that's Phillips Stankovic taking on Linwood Dozier. Greenbelt, Maryland Cruiserweight, the Vanilla Gorilla Sam Crossett. He will take on another veteran, Edgar Perez of Chicago, Illinois, in a 6th round encounter. Now, I thought Perez had retired, but he is still going, and he is going to go up against Sam Crossett. Crossett is 8-0, 5 KOs. He's been trying to find a bout all year, but bouts have been falling out on him. And he last fought on December 1st at the Entertainment Sports Arena in D.C., won a tough 6-round split decision win over Tuan Smith. So that was a tough one. I thought Crossett lost that bout, to be perfectly honest with you. Be that as it may. Perez is 7-26, 3 KOs. He's looking to break a 7-bout losing streak that includes a first-round stoppage by Jerry Forrest on December 8th at the Masonic Temple in Norfolk, Virginia. Perez has also lost to Beltway Boxers Damon Nicholson, Jerry Odom, and Antoine Douglas. However, in all 3 bouts, he took all 3 of those guys the distance. In fact, I think for Damon it was his first time, possibly for Odom his first time, and Douglas was I think Douglas actually did knock out Perez, but he was tough against those guys. I don't know if he's still tough anymore. We'll have to wait and see. But that's Vanilla Gorilla Sam Crossett. He'll battle Edgar Perez in a 6-round bout. DC Super Bantamweight Darren Sweet Tay Williams. He'll look to bounce back from his first pro loss. He battles Raymond Bad Boy Chacon of Los Angeles, California. That bout scheduled for 6 rounds. Williams is 7-1, 4 KOs. Lost by 8-round unanimous decision to Oleg Dovun on March 2nd in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And about where Williams really just couldn't get going against Dovun. No question about that. He lost by a relatively easy unanimous decision, if I remember correctly on that one. Chacon is 7-39-1. And he comes off a 4-round unanimous decision to Abel Mendoza on July 20th in Midland, Texas. That's a 6-round bout. Darren Williams against Raymond Chacon. Baltimore, Maryland super featherweight Mike Pappy Allison IV. He'll be in a 6-round contest against Veron Webb of North Carolina. Allison is 9-3-1, 7 KOs. He lost his last contest by 6-round unanimous decision to Luis Gerardo Perez Salas on May 25th at the MGM National Harbor Casino in Oxon Hill, Maryland. He just didn't look good in that bout. Allison IV was really kind of slow in that situation. Webb, meanwhile, is 0-3, coming off a 4-round unanimous decision to Jose Ibarra on December 15th in Columbia, South Carolina. Webb has also lost to Dante Cox. That was by 3rd-round TKO back in August of 2018 at the Live Casino in Hanover, Maryland. 3 locals make their pro debut on this card. Baltimore, Maryland super middleweight Terrell Boyd faces off with George Shepard of North Virginia in a 4-round bout. Boyd is a former regional novice Golden Glove champion. Had done well in the amateurs. So he'll be interesting to see. And Shepard is 1-9-1. He lost by 4-round TKO in his last outing on August 2nd in Kissimmee, Florida. We have Ashburn, Virginia welterweight Alan Johnson. He'll be in a 4-round contest against Rondell McGee of Yonkers, New York. I don't know much about Alan Johnson, so we'll have to wait and see if he's that good. Also, Calvin Menz, who's a cruiserweight from Leesburg, Virginia, by way of Accra, Ghana. He'll take on the equally debuting Rashad Lipscomb of Danville, Virginia. Don't know anything about Calvin Menz, so looking forward to seeing him as well. Other bouts are scheduled for this card. I know Nasty Nigel Fennell is scheduled in that card from Salisbury, Maryland. And I found out today that Shingas Khan Tazabai will be on this card coming up at the Michael & Son Sportsplex in Sterling, Virginia. That'll be on Saturday, September the 14th. Hope you can come out and make it. I can't make it, and I don't think my partner Juan Marshall will be able to make it as well because he has another engagement that day as well. So hopefully we'll be able to get some coverage for you and get some results from that card. Now, as far as the media day today. It was interesting media day. We had a chance to do a media day for Franchon Cruz-Luzerne because she was getting ready for a bout next Saturday, September 14th, at the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. Now, she's facing a heavyweight in Alejandra La Tigre Jimenez of Mexico City. Now, she's the reigning, by the way, WBC heavyweight champion, but she's dropped down since then. Because again, as I said last podcast, I don't know where you find female heavyweights. Really, I really don't. So she's dropped down to the super middleweight and light heavyweight division now. You know, Franchon, I wish I could have given the interview because Franchon had some pretty pointed remarks toward Alejandra Jimenez. I mean, just because apparently Jimenez has talked a lot of trash on Twitter. But Franchon's a natural super middleweight / light heavyweight, and it'll be interesting to see what she does against Jimenez coming up on September 14th. So it was interesting to watch her, but prior to that, prior to her being there, I got there a little early, and it was interesting to see because when I got there, world champion Sean Showtime Porter is training in the area. He's training at the Headbangers Gym, and he's getting ready for his big bout September 28th against Errol Spence. And just to see him train was interesting in and of itself, but what was also interesting was how Porter was just one of the guys. He was there with a lot of the guys who were training. Patrick Harris was there. I said Chinggis Khan Tazabai, a couple of the key amateurs, Cipriano Zeldin, who I've mentioned as far as Golden Gloves concerned, Nasheed Smith, who is actually, I believe, the first boxer from the Beltway to actually be qualified to compete in the Olympic trials, which by the way is in Lake Charles, Louisiana this year. But he's the first from the Beltway, I believe, to actually be eligible for the Olympic trials coming up later on this year. So it was great to see him and just a lot of the Beltway boxers from the Headbangers Gym were there. I know Michael Fox came through, but I don't know if he wasn't training there, but he just came through. It was really just interesting to see how they work. We saw how they train. I mean, they didn't even get into the ring and box or sparring like that. They were doing a lot of calisthenics, and they were doing exercises with different items. It was really interesting to see. That's the first time, one of the first times recently that I've seen that. And I know Barry Hunter just looked at me and said, "This is why we fight like we do, because they work hard. They do work hard, no question about that." So, I had a chance to watch that, and observe that, and then Franchon came in. She started working out. We talked with her, Ron Harris of the Sentinel, Juan Marshall. You can see some of Juan Marshall's footage on YouTube. Now, on YouTube, yes, but also on Facebook. You can see some of his footage from the interviews with Franchon. And then who would walk in, because Franchon's a Golden Boy fighter, who would walk in but legendary world champion, future first ballot Hall of Famer, Bernard the Executioner Hopkins. And Bernard Hopkins was, let's put it this way, he held court. He held court. People wanted to get some knowledge from him, and it was really, really interesting because what he would do, he would talk to the younger guys like Nasheed Smith. And I told Bernard that he was qualifying he qualified for the Olympic trials. And, he liked the way Nasheed looked as far as his build and all. And the first thing he said to him was, he reminded Bernard of another Philadelphia Beltway boxing legend by the name of Matthew Saad Muhammad. And I remember Matthew Saad Muhammad growing up. He was incredible, no question about that. He was a great, great boxer. He and Eddie Mustafa Muhammad were a great rivalry. And so he just imparting wisdom to Nasheed and other boxers who were there. And it was just a really interesting situation. Just to watch that, observe that was incredible. It really was. It really was a lot of fun to see. And as far as Franchon is concerned, Franchon Cruz-Luzerne, I've always said it, and I've said it from day one, ever since I saw her as an amateur. And it was one of the reporters, I won't mention his name, but one of the reporters had never really heard of her. I know he didn't. And he was asking about her amateur career. Now, Franchon Cruz-Dezurn, we've talked about right here on the podcast, has had one of the most decorated amateur careers that I've ever known in the Beltway. And I remember when he was asking that question, Franchon looked at me and she had this look on her face like, "Wait, this man's kidding? You have never heard of me?" So it was really interesting, but it was funny. It was kind of fun. But I've always said that Franchon Cruz-Dezurn can transcend the women's division. What I mean by that is she has such a great story. I've said this before, so but if those of you who've heard me say this before, please bear with me. But she has this interesting story with her training, trying to compete on American Idol. Her mom passing away is the sad part of the story, but just what she does in life. I mean, she. Not only is she a great boxer, she's married to a boxer who, by the way, Glenn Dezurn has a bout coming up 1 week from Franchon's card. Franchon's on September 24th. Glenn Dezurn has a bout in Covington, Kentucky on September 21st. But anyway, just to know her story. I mean, just to be a part of her story. I mean, I followed her ever since she was an amateur, so I've known her career about as well as anybody, and I've always said that she could transcend the pro game if she decided to do so. Well, she is a champion already, and I think that she has every possibility of being a trendsetter in the women's division. And it continues this next Saturday, from tomorrow, I should say, Saturday, September 14th at Dignity Health Sports Park against Alejandra La Tigre Jimenez. And that'll be the card. That'll be at Carson, California. And it'll be on the Zone, by the way. It'll be on the Zone app. So you can see it as well. But it was just a very interesting experience for me. And again, media days usually, you go in, you watch the person train, or talk to them. You watch them train, you leave. But again, between the Headbangers talent, which again, some great talent there. Sean Porter's there training, And then Franchon comes in, she's training, she talks to you, and she, again, just the way she speaks, just the way her ability in the ring, her glamour outside the ring, again, I think she can really transcend the business. I've always said that to her. I've said it to her face, and I say it here every chance I get. So, again, her bout is Saturday, September 14th, at the Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson, California. That's a big day for us, because not only that bout is on September 14th, Michael the Professor Fox competes in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania on that very same day. And, of course, we have the card here at the Michael Sun Sportsplex in Sterling, Virginia. That's a big day next Saturday, so we'll keep you posted as best we can on that. Well, that'll do it for another edition of Beltway Boxing News and Notes, this special extra edition of the podcast. We will have one next week just to see if anything goes on, and a last-minute change with all the cards that we've been talking about, and any other great news we have coming up in the next couple of weeks. Beltway Boxing News and Notes on the Boxing and Beltway Podcast Network, brought to you by Real Time Pain Relief. You go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real Time Pain Relief. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com, great weight loss tips, great jewelry, great training methods on Deborah. That's DEBRA Spears.com. Thank you for joining me for this special edition and our extra Beltway Boxing news and notes. I look forward to talking to you again another week with some more boxing content. Until then, I'm Gary Digital Williams. Thanks for joining me. Always remember, keep supporting the best boxing in the world, the boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.
Beautiful right hand by Darryl Coley.